We are live. So welcome to the InnerStrength Empowerment Hour, episode 14, or so LT tells me, because she's keeping track of this. And I am Lori DePietro stand-in, and these are my awesome program success coaches, Joanne and Lori, that we call LT. So thank you, ladies, for joining me again. It's hard to believe that this has been 14. It's been more than 14 weeks because we took off at the holidays a little bit, but it's gone by fast. Don't you guys think?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe you got me to do this 14 times.
Exactly. The first time that I talked about it, I mean, you were like,
oh yeah.
So now you're a pro. You're a pro. The big networks are going to be contacting you any day.
Yeah.
So thank you all of you who are joining us in the live stream or in the replay. Linda says, hi, ladies. Hello. And if you have any comments, we would love for you to interact. That's why we live stream it instead of just record it. And so please, whether you are watching this live or on the replay, feel free to comment, ask questions. And even if it's after the fact, we always come back and look. So it is Friday, TGIF, and our topic today is real self-care. So this is a topic, I'm always looking for topics that are going to be relevant to all of you out there in the group. And I know that there's a lot of confusion around what self-care actually is. So I want to talk about that today and talk about what it means to you guys, Joanne and LT. And again, feel free to comment on this because I just think that there's a lot of confusion. We think it is all about going to get a pedicure and taking a bubble bath and getting a massage, and all those things are amazing. So don't get me wrong. But when you are really taking care of yourself, it's something that has an impact on you. You can be having a horrible life and you can go get a pedicure and that'll be great for, 45 minutes. But then, your life is still what it is. And so self-care is actually making an impact on your life. And so we're going to talk about what that looks like in real life and even from day to day today. So what I'm wondering though is, so before both of you came into the program, and just for those of you who haven't watched us before, Joanne and LT have lost 50 and 70 pounds respectively. I lost 60 pounds. And but what did you think self-care was? What if I would have said to you, are you practicing self-care before you started the program, what would you have said?
Go ahead, LT, you go first this week.
I would have said, yes, I am, because I'm getting regular facials and I'm getting manicures and pedicures, and I do a massage once a month. And I always, even when I was up, all those times of going up and down, I always did exercise. So that would have been a form of that. So I would put all of that in a category of, it was something that was event driven. So it was something that you go do.
Yeah. Go get your self-care on.
Yeah.
And then you come back to your life. Right. Yeah.
Right.
So it's almost like an escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What about you, Joanne? Any thoughts?
Well, I've never liked any of those things. So I think I didn't have any of those. I mean, I don't like people touching me, so I don't want to.
And I love every single one of them.
Yeah. And I don't like people looking at my feet, and I don't, like having my toes painted or whatever, like that didn't appeal to me. So I would hear other people talk about that, and I'm like, God, that sounds like the worst thing ever imaginable. So I guess I just didn't have any self-care except for, when the weekend hit and my husband was off work, I was like, oh, thank God we could, I'm not alone with the kids. Let's go out to eat. Like, I think that became my self-care, because we live in a suburb of Chicago. Like, hey, let's go downtown and eat like the most decadent thing we can find, go to Greek
Yeah,
town,
right.
go out for sushi, you know, like indulge in that way as like a reward, a time off that I don't have to be cooking or just to get out of the house. So I think that was kind of like what I thought self-care was.
And I did
I,
that too.
I
In
totally,
addition to all that.
in addition to all the other stuff. I totally agree with that. I also am a person who does not want anybody touching my feet.
Oh, good.
So
I'm not a weirdo alone.
pedicures were never it like I just grossed me out. So like
Yeah.
I don't so just so you guys know, like I don't want to touch your feet either. And I don't want you to touch mine. So but but yeah, I was very much the same though. I did you know, every once in a while I would go get a massage or and that was like a huge treat, or you know, getting your hair done, you know, that to me was self-care. And yeah, we just doing takeout. We did a ton of takeout. And to me, that was like, okay, I can't deal. So I am gonna go ahead and get this takeout because that is gonna make my life easier.
Yeah.
You know, so that was I was very much the same on that. Is I just felt like I just can't deal with it, you know, and it just is, I'm already doing this and this and this and this and this. And so self-care is going through the drive-through. Self-care is, you know, ordering takeout or going to get ice cream.
Yeah.
So all of that.
It was also, for me, it was also a shopping day. And when I was at my high point, you know, it was horrible to shop for clothes, but I could shop for shoes all day long, and I could shop for jewelry, and I could shop for makeup. And so I could shop for things for the home or for holidays or buy for other people. And so that's where the shopping, I didn't want to go to a dressing room. No.
Right. Yeah, that was, I definitely could drop some money at Target for sure too. Like I just like to wander around Target by myself. Like I would just walk around like this is my me time, you know? And then even when I first got started on this journey, one of my big events was on a Friday night. I would go to Whole Foods because they had the little samples.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, and it was all healthy stuff, like for the most part. And I would just be like, this is my me time. So it's really interesting how we all say the same stuff in terms of I was overwhelmed. And you know, the different things that we're trying to do to get out from under that and failing year after year. But it's really, but instead of looking at that, what do we all focus on? The weight, the end result, the symptom, you know, of not taking care of yourself, which is the weight. So it is such an interesting topic. So how were any of your was it helping you to do any of the stuff that you were doing? Did it feel in the moment, like, or afterwards, like, did you feel like you were getting somewhere with any of your self-care?
They were all short term. I mean, it was just like you said, it was just for the day, or it was for that next hour or something. It wasn't something that would carry on. And then, you know, if I had a big shopping day, or, you know, you feel guilty for spending all that money.
Right.
So, you know, you do that, you know. So it was just little different things, but it was nothing. I was not working on anything where I was bettering myself as a person.
Right.
I can definitely say that wasn't going on.
Just quick fixes. Like I feel crappy today, I'm going to go do this. And thank God for me, that was before the days of Amazon Prime. I had to go to Target.
Treating yourself. That's what it was. It was like treating yourself, period.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the same guilt in the aftermath of that too, because I did the same thing with shopping for shoes and jewelry and things like that. But also just the going out to eat. When we would go out and it would take us a long time to get down to downtown, and then we'd have to park, and that was exhausting, and that was super stressful because I'm not a city person. So going actually into the city was super stressful. But that's where all good food is. So we did it. But then I have so many food sensitivities, but I wasn't like aware of what they were at that point. And I just kept going. And so I would feel physically miserable even just on the way home, it would start in that quickly. So even after the stuff tasted really good, I would be miserable for the next 3 days because of what I had done. And then of course you easily drop $100 on dinner. So you're like, well, that sucked because now I'm out $100 and I feel
and I feel like crap.
Yeah. And I wasted like an entire, more than it would have taken to just cook a meal. So yeah, it was very short-lived and almost had a negative impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why I did so much takeout. Like I didn't want to first of all, I didn't want to get dressed.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way I looked in anything. And I didn't like taking a shower or anything. Like I took a shower every day. So I don't want to but I'm just saying
Yeah.
I would like to just tune out the fact that I am this heavy, and
Yeah.
that's hard to do when you're naked in the shower, it's like, all right, let's get this over with. But yeah, I think we did so much takeout because I didn't even want to go out. Like I anything that I could do to avoid that. And I wasn't even doing it on purpose. Like if you would have asked me back then, I would never have said that. Because I always cared about my appearance and, would try to look cute whenever we went anywhere. But I know in the back of my mind, it was always like my belly was so uncomfortable and stuff. That I just would rather be at home with, with your stretchy pants on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because those outfits, that's what we did when we were bigger. You're constantly pulling and fiddling with your clothes and, nothing's ever right. And then you think you've got the best choice. Say you're going out for the night and you think that this is the best thing to put on. And then you end up not being happy with it. I'm speaking for myself. That's what I did. So I would always say like, why did I even go?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're just feeling self-conscious. And I always just felt like people were looking at I carry, my whole family is very apple shaped. We carry a lot of fat in our belly. And I always just felt like my belly was on display, like I was always trying to figure out how I was going to hide it. Colleen says, my bills at the grocery store is a night out for my hubby and I. So yeah, like you don't even think about like, okay, so this is really embarrassing. But I remember, actually adding up what we were spending monthly on total for food, groceries and takeout. For 4 of us, it was $1,200. Just ridiculous.
We were doing $1,200 just on fast food or like, Chinese delivery or pizza delivery, something where we weren't even going out for a night out. It was just what we were eating either in the car or getting delivered to the door.
Yeah.
Easily $1,200.
I think people don't always look. I mean, I know a lot of women, when I'll ask them, I'll say, so what do you think you're spending on takeout or fast food or whatever in a month? And they don't know. They're like, well, let me think about this for a second. When you add it up, like they say that the median in the whole United States is like a minimum of $400 a month is what people are spending on takeout. And yet, when you start talking to them about getting healthy, they're like, well, that's just so expensive. And you don't even think about how much you're spending on takeout and on fast food and on medication because you don't feel good. But so back then, if someone would have said, what's the problem? Like, what is the actual problem that's keeping you stuck? What would you have said?
I would have said that I felt very defeated, that I tried and failed a lot. And so I adopted this defeatist attitude, like it's for other people and it's not for me. I obviously have something component is wrong with me that can't get it done. I isolated a lot so that now you're adding in a layer of loneliness or isolation, and that's playing into you because that gave me a bunch of time to ruminate. And so when I ruminated, I stayed in a negative cycle instead of thinking about what was good going on in my life. I could only concentrate and exaggerate and expand on what was going bad.
Right.
So I think I just stayed in that state. And I've shared before that I am a journal writer, and I've been a journal writer for most of my life. And when I go back through and read some of what I have written, my gosh, it is pitiful. And I think this is how I really felt because, this was an honest look of the way I truly felt about myself written down. There was no filter to that because nobody's reading this but me.
Right.
And so I just want to go pull that girl out of there and tell her that, you know, there is going to be hope one day, and it is going to turn around. And this is not always going to be the way that it is. And and there's not something wrong with you, and everybody else can get it right. You know, you're just like everybody else.
Right. I talk to people about, if you have not seen, I send this thing to everybody. And I'll post it here if someone will remind me in the comments. But Oprah Winfrey and her Super Soul Sunday did like a little podcast episode or video with Stephen Pressfield, who is the author of The War of Art. And what he's talking about in this 30-minute thing is a universal resistance that we have to change. And what that looks like is not like, oh, I don't want to change. What it says is, now is not the time. This isn't right for me. I can't do this even though everyone else can. We think it's so isolating when we hear it. We think it's just us. We think we believe that voice, and we don't realize that is actually what everyone else is hearing too. And the people who are successful are the people who are overcoming that voice. And so it's it's a profound thing when you realize that resistance is that's for everybody. It's not just you. And so I will post that because it's a really profound thing to listen to. It made me feel like, okay, I'm not alone. Everybody's hearing this voice. It's not just me. So Peggy says, I never made time for myself. Right. So I think that's what we're talking about, is that the time that we did make for ourselves was so fleeting. And it's like, I'm going to go get my hair done every once in a while, or I'm going to, you know, it's these little jaunts. Alice says, I have definitely fallen into the takeout pit over the past few months. It's horrible, wasting way too much money, and we always feel so gross afterwards. And even though I feel beforehand that it's making my day easier by not having to worry about trying to put a meal together. Exactly. And it's what is so crazy is just like what Joanne said, by the time that you do it, you could have easily made a meal at home.
Yeah,
it's just
easily.
We just don't, we're not thinking clearly. Tammy says, takeout and fast food is so much more expensive than cooking yourself. The amount of time you spend waiting in the drive-through and getting home, you could have made a quick and delicious meal in your home in 30 minutes or less. So yeah, I just think we're not living in the present. You know, we're not living in the now. We're just thinking like, I'm just trying to get through my day. We're on autopilot. Like, I'm just trying to get to the end. We're barreling forward without really taking a minute and thinking about things. Is there anything you wanted to say about that, Joanne, like what you thought the problem was?
I think the problem for me was I was just trying to fit, you know, I've said before, like I looked around, I saw everybody else being happy and doing what they were doing. So I kind of dabbled in all those things. And I really thought that if I could fit into one of those sort of categories, that would be like where I was supposed to be or what I was supposed to be doing. And that would make me feel fulfilled. Like, so was I the girl who hung out at Starbucks and drank soy lattes? Or was I the girl who went to Bible study on Wednesdays? Or was I the girl who, you know, like, what did I identify with? Or was I the girl who shopped at Target and had a certain look to my house? Or, you know, those kind of things. I was really trying to fit a mold that already existed instead of nurturing who I was and what I actually wanted, because I didn't want any of those things. So I think the dabbling around with the, you know, let's go to this restaurant, that'll make me feel better. Well, I didn't even like that food. It didn't make me feel good. I'm not a person who likes to go downtown. I want to stay in my house and not be in traffic. But I was trying to be that person because other people were loving it. Everybody else had a good time doing it. And, you know, I think finding out what real self-care was, and then understanding that it's about, you know, understanding who you are at your core, and then making that a thing instead of trying to fit into all these prefab sort of molds that are out there that you're never going to fit in because you're your own self.
That is such a great point, because I definitely I was not in touch with my core self at all. I was just doing. I was doing all the time instead of being. And especially for those of you out there, and obviously it doesn't apply to everyone, but as a mom, when my kids were younger, like that's a whole thing you're trying to be. You're trying to be the mom.
Yeah.
And it is exhausting, and it's a game that we play with each other too. There's a lot of competition there, and we're not nice to each other as women about it. We are really hard on one another. And so it was a lot of just trying to be something instead of trying to become something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's such a great point. Linda says surviving is not thriving. Day-to-day survival is not a form of self-care. Stephanie says, Joanne, this really resonates with me, trying to find out who I really am and not just copy someone else. Alice says, yes, that is me and has been me, dabbling, trying to fit into a mold instead of being my true self. Carla says, I agree with Joanne. And so
see, we're not alone. We're not all, we're all dealing.
But it feels so isolating.
It does. I felt like I was the odd man out. Like I'm the one who doesn't like doing all these things. What's wrong with me?
Right.
Yeah.
Or yeah, and these are not the honest talks we have with other women during that time, at least usually. You know, we're all just trying to be and to fit in and to do it right. And that is so opposite of what we need to do. So what were now this is a huge part of self-care. What were your boundaries like back then?
I didn't really have any because I said yes to everything because I was in a position to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I was volunteer extraordinaire. And what that meant was that I was going to do everything big and blow it out. So I was always the room mother every year. Yeah. And it wasn't just having fun stuff. It was having fun stuff, big stuff.
Great.
And somebody, you know, had a little jealousy or competition with me. Instead of what that did at that time, because I was in that framework, was then I'll show you and I'll make it even bigger and it'll be even better. And I'll really give you something to talk about. That is how I'm not proud of that, but that is what I did. And I took it further, and I did this with anything. And I think I was trying to, when I look back at it, and I have put some thought into this, I'm not just saying this off the cuff. What I was doing was I was wanting all of the things that I did to be my atta girls and to be my affirmation. And now you're getting the gold star and you're more worthy when you do things over the top and make things fabulous for other people. And it was deflecting away from what I was feeling because I was going for that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was doing.
These benchmarks, like, okay, I am successful and I am a good person because
I did that.
Yes. Right.
And I made that happen, and they had fun, and they said that was the best party they had ever been to. And I mean, I've lived on that.
Yeah.
I could not get enough of that. And that's why I kept doing it. And that's why I strung myself out. And that's why I cried almost every day. And that's why I got to a point where I wasn't really happy anymore. I was just doing for other people. I didn't know what made me happy. And then I got to the point where I was staying at home more. And then I really did disconnect with myself when I was at my biggest parts, because that's when I was isolating. So that wasn't authentic to who I was either. Really, I was a mixture between those two people. So I was one extreme or the other extreme. No balance.
So you're talking about, I think, a snowball effect where it starts out where you're trying to do and be, and then you can't stop because then you're not worthy anymore, so you have to keep going,
right?
And it is exhausting to constantly be on,
right?
Yeah. What about you?
And when you do stop, then all the feelings of you're worthless,
right?
That's what happened. So as long as I kept busy, I was worthy,
right? Yeah. And I think when that rush of feelings comes in for me is when I would binge, like, you know, I didn't have any kind of, like, I wouldn't have said that at the time. Like, I wasn't cognizant of that. No. But you look at those times when you do that, and it is when you're like, you know,
out of control. and embarrassed about it. And that's why the wrappers were thrown away, not on the property. They were in a gas station down the street.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want the evidence.
Right. Right. And then you start again.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. I was the same way. I could have ditto to your story because I was a stay-at-home mom too. And I think I've told you guys, I was the room mother. I was the Girl Scout leader. I was on all the committees. And it was kind of a joke that they were going to get me a t-shirt and it was going to say party hero because I was the room mom that did the bigger, better, more like, oh, the kids have to have a 3-ring circus to have a good Valentine's Day party, or, you know, and that ended very badly for me. Actually ended up getting very sick and going to the hospital because of that, of my over volunteering. And what happens with that, when you start to take so much control in those situations, because it's not fulfilling that box, it's not ticking that box that you're expecting it to tick, then you start becoming super resentful about it. And then it gives you actually a negative feeling and a negative energy out of these things that you are trying so hard to get you to get, you know, to have a good feeling about, but it's actually making you more resentful that other people aren't stepping up, or when
bitter.
You're not even allowing them to step up because you're just taking over. And you know, you know what I'm saying.
We're soul sisters on this. Me and Joanne,
so.
we're little twins in this area.
I think so.
Well, number one, I just want to say that if either one of you has a party, I'm coming, since you guys. Colleen says, Christmas break was a setback for me. So right now I'm struggling to get back on track with clean eating. I love all the recipes. It's just my energy level is low right now. So yeah, Christmas, like that's another thing. Like, you know, you got to do the big, you know, the big celebrations and all of the bells and whistles, because we think our kids, you know, deserve that and have to have that in order to have a good Christmas or holiday, whatever we're trying to do. I think also for people who were working moms, there's so much pressure on all moms, whether you know, in this society, if you are a stay-at-home mom, it's frowned upon, like, oh, well, why aren't you out there working? Like you're not, you know, and then if you are a working mom, it's like, well, you're not really paying attention to your kids. And it doesn't apply to men the same way.
No.
You know, I saw somebody was saying, as I was scrolling on Facebook, which I try not to do, but I saw someone was saying that no one is asking. So now that we have a vice president that is a woman, no one is asking whether the first gentleman is going to quit his job. Like that's a big thing, like that they've been talking about with the first lady and that they always talk about. But with the first gentleman, it's like nobody's even questioned that. So it is really interesting the way the society views it. It's a no-win situation that they put women in. And it is exhausting for us. And we can turn on each other about it, which is also the sad part, is where, you know, we don't stick together on it.
Oh yeah.
And I think with my boundaries, I let people treat me like I wasn't worth much because I didn't think I was. So again, at that time, I would never have said that. I would have been like, no, I don't, you know, I don't feel that way. But that's the way I behaved. I let people influence me and talk down to me and have too much say in my life, who weren't really rooting for me. You know? And that was such an insult to my psyche. And that just was a downhill, you know, spiral over the course of years that I experienced. So what was the moment after each of you started the program where you realized that self-care was different than what you thought it was before?
Yeah, I started noticing that there was a lot of encouragement in this group that we're in, and there was a lot of positivity and just positive messages and wanting to celebrate things that didn't have to do with the number on the scale. And so it just started making me think about things in a different little way. And I would say that doing these daily affirmations and this mantra has helped tremendously, because it's just something that has become the fabric of who I am. And it's like we're attracting what we want. We're not putting out there what we don't want. And so I think that that's been one of the biggest things, is just the positivity and kind of like that, come on, girl, you can do it. And then also just knowing that there's going to be times where it's not your best or you're not having the best day, but you know what? You can pick yourself back up, and that doesn't have to translate to now the weekend's ruined and I've blown the week and let me just start after Valentine's Day. I mean,
Right.
you know, you don't have to keep prolonging it. You can do things right now, you know?
Well, and I think too, like we're talking about, you can just be real.
Yeah.
When you're, I mean, we all struggle. So when we act like we're not struggling, that's, we can get into trouble doing that as well.
Yeah.
There's a balance between really encouraging and helping people move forward and, you know, acting like that there's no struggle and no challenge.
That's right. Because how many of us on Facebook and on our own Facebook page are saying, I had a horrible day. And you know what I did? I went to the drive-through and I got a bunch of stuff and I ate it real quick. And then I threw the bags away in a gas station.
Right.
Okay. Are we writing that? No.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is we're comparing our behind the scenes to everybody else's highlight reels. And that just sets us up for defeat. And that's the beauty of this group, is we have the freedom to be real and authentic, and not judge and say, you know what, I used to do that too.
Alice, yeah. So Alice is saying, yes, I agree. As a single mom, I put all of my energy into having a great holiday for my kids, to include all of the foods.
Yeah.
That even though I had 2 weeks off, I ended up using no time for myself.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, it's, you know, it's that trap of always wanting things to appear great, you know, even before Facebook, even before social media, it's like that keeping up with the Joneses.
That's
like,
right.
I want everything to appear fine. And then none of us is being honest with one another. What about you, Joanne? Did you have an aha moment, or was it just sort of over time?
I think it was sort of an aha, like sort of an evolution, because once I learned about boundaries.
Aha evolution. I like that. The aha evolution. I'm going to use that.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think it's just learning how to set boundaries and learning how to actually incorporate making myself a priority. And it kind of all went along with, also, we had moved, we did a big move an hour away from where we used to live. So I wasn't in that same environment with the same people, in the same house, doing the same thing. We moved, and that's when I started to notice, like, you know, my health actually did start to decline more, because then I was more isolated, because I didn't have my regular, even to just get up and go meet friends at Starbucks. I didn't have those other moms around me, and I didn't know anybody. But it also gave me time to start reflecting on things. And that's, you know, that's when I ended up calling you and joining your program. But after I started doing the mindset work, and I realized that self-care is really more about taking away things than adding things. And that was like an aha moment, and quieting my day, quieting my brain, and not going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and trying to do all the things and trying to please all the people and picking other people's kids up from school and volunteering for this committee or that committee. I said, when we moved, I'm taking a year off. I'm not engaging with other moms. I'm not volunteering for one thing at the school. My kids were still in middle school. So I'm like, it's middle school, I don't even care. And so when high school gets here, I'll volunteer again. But I took a whole year off of just getting my house set the way I wanted. And then I joined your program, and I started to really unfold how self-care looked. And it was more of taking away things. It was taking away the, you know, going out and getting junk food. It was taking away all those old bad habits, and doing things that actually had a long lasting effect, and that would actually make me feel better instead of make me feel worse.
Right. That's exactly what I would say too. It's things that feed your spirit.
Yes.
We really started to hone in on things that really light us up and that we really want. And that is getting rid of some things.
Right.
And one thing for me was I used to watch TV a lot, and now I rarely watch TV. And when I do, it's just on things that I really like. You know, it's not going to be, it's not that mindless, oh, here's the next program coming in on the heel of that program.
Right.
You know, it's like I'm tuning in to watch something because I'm choosing to watch that.
Right. You're being intentional.
Right. Yes. Making your choices about how you spend your time too, because before I was in a situation where I was volunteering for so many things, and we lived, our house was like right at the end of the block of where Chicago started. So it was very trafficky, very loud, very city-like. And that was very overwhelming to my like sensory overload. And so when we moved here, like my next door neighbor is a beekeeper. She's got beehives in her backyard. I would literally sit there and watch out the window and watch the pattern of what her bees were doing, or they'd come to my window and like look in, and like seriously slowing everything down and just having quiet moments that my brain didn't have to go 1,000 miles an hour. That's self-care.
Yeah. Being in the moment.
Right.
Being in the moment. Exactly.
Yeah. So Anne says, trying to find my new normal with a full plate, online school with twins. Joanne knows all about twins.
Oh yeah.
And tween, going to school, and loss of my best friend and sister last year, and my elderly father living with me. So that's a lot. Finding a balance is difficult right now. I do talk to a lot of women who are helping to care for elderly parents. And so just to touch on that with boundaries, in every case almost of the women that I've talked to, there were other siblings that could step up that weren't. And so the women that I talked to were sort of silently taking on the load. And I was like, no, you need to call your sibling out on this. You need help. What are some ways that you can get some help? Even if it's not them, maybe they can contribute financially to having someone come in and help. But there's, I think that's the other thing is we do this whole silent suffering bullshit, honestly, instead of saying, here's what I need. Like, I'm having a hard time here and you're going to have to help me. Like, this is what it is. And, that goes exactly to number 4 of my super truths for anyone who has been following me, which is that women are expected to do it all, to always act like it's not a problem. I got it. And to look good while they're doing it. And so you've got all of this pressure on you all of the time. And that's what makes us do these little things of self-care. I really think that that's a big part of the shake and supplements industry as well, is that you feel like, oh, what I can do is practice self-care by taking these supplements and by doing this shake. It's these quick things that you can do because you're so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that seems easy. So what does self-care look like for both of you now, both mentally and physically, on a daily basis? So I think that's the thing that we wanted to really get to. It's not just like some big overarching, what is self-care, but like the nitty-gritty, like what does it look like for you on the daily?
Today, what does it look like today? It looks like that I'm going to meditate today. I use the Head Start Headspace app.
Yep.
And the guided thing that I really like. I am doing a whole host of things that you recommended in your holiday gift guide. I'm dry brushing before a shower. I'm doing oregano oil on my feet at night. I'm doing all kinds of special masks or little rollers, to your face. I'm a big reader. I love to read. I make sure that I go to bed earlier because I like to read in bed. So that may make me going a little bit earlier to read, which I love to do. And I'm not just reading just for fun. I do that, but I love to do things where I'm learning something, where I'm reading. And so that's a big important. Volunteering is still important to me, but I'm doing it what I want to do. And it's not what everybody would want to do, but I do visit hospice patients every week with my little black dog Chip. And that brings me a great sense of purpose because I know that I'm making a difference. I know that I am, and they're telling me that I am. And so I just feel something from that. And I feel like that I'm giving back. I've been in a Wednesday night Bible study for years, and those people are very important to me, and I make time for that. I really like to be with friends, so I make time to get together with whoever I'm going to get to for a lunch, or to go out with a couple. That's important to me. So I plan that. We have that lined up. I still get my manicures and my pedicures and my massages, and I still get my facials. I still love doing all that, and I still like to shop. But I will say that shopping is taking on a different tone now. I like going in the dressing room now. So now I'm shopping for clothes.
And you're exercising.
I still exercise every day, and that's taken on a different tone, because before it was almost a dread or have to do it. And when I was with a trainer, somebody watching me, and you have to perform and all this. I'm doing it of my own volition, and I'm probably getting more out of it than I ever have, because I enjoy going. I kill two birds with one stone, because most of the time I'm listening to some sort of an informational podcast, right, or a music or a talk show or something. So I feel like that I'm still doing two things at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so it's feeding your mind, it's feeding your body. And I know too, you have, you're focused on good nutrition. So it's like it's not just one thing, it's not just one area. It's looking at the whole Lori.
That's right. And it is planning meals, and it is cooking meals, and it is, shopping different in a grocery store. All of that has taken part. And that's a huge part of self-care, because that's totally changed my relationship with food, right? How I feel, how I'm in balance, and my outlook, because I have much more hopeful outlook than I did before. The bottom line is I do things that I want and not that I have to do. Yeah, I'm not obligated anymore. I'm choosing.
Right. There's a freedom there.
Yeah, that's what
you are being the best version of Lori, instead of who you thought everybody wanted you to be.
That's right.
What about you, Joanne?
I think Lori just said the exact thing I was thinking, is you're doing what you want to do instead of where you're being dragged to do. And like with having those quieter moments and getting more in line with who you are, instead of what everything else out there messaging, like what we see in ads and what we see on TV, like how we're supposed to be, and really having those quiet moments to understand and build who we are, and then aligning ourselves with that. So for me, self-care looks like getting up 15 minutes before the kids in the morning to go put on my oil diffuser and make myself a cup of tea. At least I can calm the storm within before everybody else gets up. Not putting junk in my body anymore is self-care, and choosing to eat healthy instead of indulging in high fat, high, sugary things. That's self-care now, is choosing to eat something that's actually going to make me feel good later or tomorrow or the next day. With the volunteering thing, I'm not just volunteering because somebody's calling me up going, hey, we need another committee started. Can you do this? Yeah. I'm not answering those calls. I'm looking for things I want to do. So I started volunteering with the Historical Society in our town. And I sought that out instead of it coming and landing on my doorstep going, can you do this? Well, of course I can do it. Right. I can, but do I want to? No. But am I going to say yes? Yeah, I probably will. So doing the things that are more in alignment with yourself, I think that's what self-care looks like for me.
That's such a great, self-care is alignment. It is, here's what I want, and my actions and my thoughts are aligned with it. We work on that so much in the group, is alignment. And it feels so good when you are in alignment. Linda says hospice visits with pets for the win. So talking to you, LT.
They do. They love that little dog.
Oh, I'm sure. And then Alice says, but whereas modern women of today's world, do you find the time for daily self-care? That's one of my biggest struggles, especially with work and the kids. And I think what we're saying is you've got to cut some things out. What we talk about in the group is about balance. It's not about how you can add things in, like Joanne said. It's about what you can remove. Because when I talk to women, they're like, well, I'm working full time, and my kids are in 3 sports, and I'm doing this. I mean, they have this big list. So where do I have time to do this? And, I'm like, well, number one, I don't know that your kids need to be in 3 different sports. I don't know that you need to, like we start looking at the things that they think they have to do and ask, do you really have to do that? Or do you just feel like you should?
Right.
And what are we showing our kids? Are we showing them that being a parent means running yourself ragged and never taking care of yourself? Is that where we're going with this? Because I don't want my kids to do that when they grow up. I want them to be taking care of themselves and stay healthy for a long, long time. So I think that's where you really have to look at what you're doing and ask yourself, why am I doing this for every single thing? And I'll tell you this too, having worked at jobs that I felt were soul sucking, that's not worth it. You are spending so much time at your job that if you hate it, or you hate the people that work there, or if they are not valuing you, you have got to figure out a way, just get out of your comfort zone and get out of there. Yeah. I've talked to so many people who are in jobs that were just practically killing them. And they're like, well, I have a pension. So if I just work for 15 more years, I'm just like, I mean, we can't, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So it's, the way that we prioritize things in the society, I think it's all up for debate. It's all, you may still decide that you want to do something, but I think it's really worth asking yourself if it's truly, truly worth it.
And it is scary to get out of things. And do you feel like you're going to disappoint somebody and they're going to question you? What? You mean you're not going to do? And then you just have to stand firm and say, I'm just kind of going a different direction. I've made some different choices. And you really don't have to explain it any further than that. And I know that fear. And I know that fear of just get out of it. It's easier said than that when you're face to face with that person and you're face to face with that job. I know it's hard, but we're here to tell you that when you're on the other side of it, the world will not end. No, there are other jobs. There are things that you can do. Somebody will find something else to do that little volunteer thing that you were asking. Right. Sometimes people just ask you because you're an easy yes, because they don't want to spend the time trying to come up with something else. So like, I'll just get her to do it. She'll do it.
Or at your job. Like I've talked to people who were like, felt like they were being forced to work their lunch hour. And I'm like, is someone specifically telling you have to work your lunch hour? Well, no. I'm like, then you need to take lunch. Because you know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's about claiming your space.
Even with your own kids, even with boundaries with your own kids, because I think because I've been a stay-at-home mom for so long and I got used to just doing everything for everyone, not to sound like a martyr about it, but that's just, they were gone all day. I did all the laundry. I did all the cleaning. I did all the everything. Well, my kids are 15. They can do their own laundry.
Right.
And it's also empowering for them to learn a skill that they can be proud of themselves for doing. So I don't do their laundry. I will help them out if they are having, during finals week when everybody was tapped out. I was like, you know what? If you go start your load of laundry, I'll take it out. Right. And I'll put it somewhere and you'll put it away. But I can pick and choose what I do instead of feeling like, oh God, now I have 2 15-year-old daughters who are just going through outfits every 5 seconds, throwing them on the floor, calling them dirty. And now I have 17 loads of laundry. No, it's about setting those boundaries and delegating tasks that other people in your household can help with. Absolutely.
Sure. Kids will totally, they will take advantage of you. We all know that. And, my son will be not doing a damn thing and walk through the kitchen and be like, Mom, will you make me this or this? I'm like, you're standing right in the kitchen. Like, I'll be in my office doing something. I'm like, things that I know he knows how to do.
Oh, sure.
He wants the scrambled eggs or something. And I'm just like, dude, come on. And so, we have to transfer our job. I'm always aware that my job is to raise an adult. I'm not raising a child. I'm raising an adult. He needs to have skills. Same thing with my daughters, Natalie says, putting ourselves on our own to-do list. Yes.
Yes.
You've got to schedule it. You know, Tony Robbins says that, you know, I don't know what the exact quote is, but it's something about, you know, thinking about it is one thing, but when you write it down, it's a reality. Like you got to put yourself on the schedule. Alice
and
says,
it feels weird at first, but it gets so much easier is what we're telling you. You really start to get old hat at it. And then you, like Joanne likes to say, then I start looking, where can I set a boundary? I mean, it really gets a lot easier with practice. But I know it's weird at first, and it's going to feel weird. We're not here to tell you that it's not going to, everything's going to be, it's going to feel weird.
Yeah.
But you can do it.
Right. And you get used to it and you really like it.
And then you really like it.
Right. Alice says that makes sense. I think I'm doing things that I should be doing. There are probably things I can remove or things my kids can do as active members of the family that give me some free time to do the things I want to do. Absolutely. And she says, by the way, my daughter is 18 and washing the dishes right now so that I can watch this. So
good.
Right. Yeah. I talk to people with adult children who are still living at home because they're going to college or whatever, and they're still doing all their stuff. I'm like, dude, your kid is 22. Like you just, they can do their own laundry. They can cook their own food. It's about time. Right. So, but we all get it. We all get that, you know, especially as women, there's so many times when I think it'd just be easier if I did this myself, you know? Right. And so we have to get out of that though, because we need to let other people, give them the opportunity to step up and feel good about themselves and how they're taking responsibility for their lives. So I don't know if we got to you though, Joanne, about, do you have anything else to say about how you care for yourself now mentally and physically?
Well, one of the things, and it goes back to boundaries, is I ordered your planner. And I'm not a planner person. And I have a good friend who might be watching this, and she's always been a list maker. And we joke about it because she'll say, well, I put this on my list. She's like, I know you don't like lists, but I don't like, I guess I just don't like constraints. But what that has led to over time is me not having good time management skills. And when I don't have good time management, I feel out of control completely. Because then you're just putting out fires all day. So running from one thing to the next, like, oh crap, I forgot about that appointment. Okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. So getting a planner and writing things down and going, okay, I've allotted time on this day to do that. And then that leaves my brain. It's on the paper, so now it's out of my brain. And I know that there's not something underlying going, okay, I knew there was that one thing. What is it? And I will get myself wrapped up trying to remember what it is. And now that I've set a boundary with myself and started managing my time better by writing things down in a planner, that has made a huge difference. So just something simple like that, that's self-care to me, because then I'm freeing up my brain space.
Right.
Yeah. And I love structure. And I love it. Because there's freedom in a structure, because you kind of know what you're going to do, but you can really, you don't have to be so strict, but at least you've got gauges.
Yes. Right. I never knew that. I never knew. And you like to laugh, LT, because you're like, what do you mean you don't know how to use a planner? I'm like, I don't have any idea how to use a planner. I really don't.
That was so shocking to me. So for you guys who don't know, I have I just this year came out with a planner because I went to order the planner I normally order and they weren't in stock yet. And I was like, I don't even use this planner the way that they intended to. Why don't I make my own planner? So that's what I did. And so you can order, I'll put the link in the comments, but it has a place for your mantra every week. And it has a monthly thing for you to focus on. But of course, it also has your, it has, a place to plan your meals and shopping lists, but it also has, your daily to-dos.
Yeah.
And what was so shocking to me is I did put, by the way, at the beginning of this planner is how to use this planner. So just so you, but how many people were like, well, I've never used a planner. How do you do it? And I was like, what do you mean? How do you do it? You just write down the stuff you need to do. And they're like, wait, what do you mean by that?
What does that mean?
I mean, it was really a wake up call for me that people don't even write anything down. I was like, how do you remember?
Well, the funniest thing to me was they thought that they had to use some colored pencils and make something like an elaborate thing with it. And I said, I would never use a planner if I had to draw illustrations and color code everything. It's with a pencil and a scratch off and an erase and a check. I mean, it's a working to do is all it is. And it's just for you. You're the only one using it.
Yeah, nobody's going to be coming and judging how you use this.
You can't mess it up. You cannot mess it up.
But I will say, I actually schedule like my runs. Like this is, I put it on my to-do list so that I can check it off when it's done. So like it is an opportunity for you to schedule your day the way you want, to think ahead of time instead of always playing catch up. And to always feel like I'm just, like Joanne said, dealing with putting out the next fire. You have it, you know, having being, that's part of being in the present too, is to be like, I'm setting my intention for the day.
That's right. You're keeping the promise that you made to yourself, and you're making sure that you did it, and you're checking it off. And I think that's that's a setup for a success is what that is.
Right. And I, you know, like I'm getting a massage today. So that's right on my calendar. But you know, you have to be intentional, and that's the whole point, is that you have to schedule your life in a way that's not killing you. And that is what self-care is. Self-care is setting yourself up to thrive, and that's not selfish.
No,
that's not selfish. And that's where we have to stop as women. Stop. I take naps. So if you guys want to know about my self-care, I take a nap when I need a nap. And I don't apologize for it. I'm not like, you know, because people will nap shame you. They'll be like, well, I'm not. I wish I could take a nap. I'm like, well, then take one. You know, like you know, we have to stop acting like taking care of ourselves is really taking care of ourselves is something to be ashamed of. It is not selfish. You need to be able to pour from a full cup, because pouring from an empty cup leads to you being overweight and sick and exhausted and bitter.
Snappy.
And what?
Snappy.
Right. So let me so I'm with Joanne. I don't use a planner. And I think it kills me. I really need help. And
I can show you the ways.
Yes,
I know it.
she can. She's an expert now. Peggy says, I love my planner. It helps me to keep accountable. Linda, who was one of the people who told me that she had no idea how to use a planner, said she is keeping monthly tabs on her so she can flip to each month.
Good.
Lists. Amy says lists. Absolutely. I'm a huge list. I could actually probably pick up about 7 lists just in my vicinity right here.
Me too. I'm a list person.
People.
But Amy says, I think I'm that list making friend Joanne mentioned. Loving
is that my friend Amy? Yes, you know, I don't.
Oh, okay. Then I thought she was joking, but okay. Yeah. Way to go.
That's the one I'm referring to. My friend Amy. Yes. She's a list maker, and she's always called me out on it. Like, well, on my list, I know you don't like making lists, and I'm like, oh, I don't even like making lists at all. But now I see the benefit of it. And so I'm a changed person.
Right. So what I want to say to you is, you know, on the note of self-care and doing things that like LT said, light you up. In our Plant Power Army, so my program is called the Plant Power Revolution, and in the Plant Power Army, which is what we call our group, right now we have 2 weekly discussions that we do that are more formal, where we have topics. We have a weekend discussion that is just a girls get together that Joanne is leading, called the Brunch Bunch. We have a 5K that we're doing in March. And so now we have a Couch to 5K group. We have a book club, and LT is running that, that our next book is Girl Wash Your Face. We have all of these things that are designed to build you up and to really get to that core of both mental and physical health that makes your life awesome. And that is what allows you to really take care of yourself, not just going for little things here and there. And believe me, I love, you know, going to get a massage, but actually practicing boundaries and thriving on a daily basis, setting up your life that way.
Yep.
And I always say like that, I always tell everyone like it's putting your peace of mind as your top priority and letting everything else fall into place. And for peace of mind, you have to be taking your care of yourself mentally and physically. You're never going to feel good unless you're doing that. So I thank you ladies so much for joining me and talking about this and being honest about your struggles and your wins in this area. And obviously to see how far both of you have come has been a true joy for me. And I know that it's having a huge impact on the women that you coach. And I also thank everyone who is joining us either. I'm always looking this way, so you guys, because that's where my phone is and I can see where all of your comments are. So I thank all of you for joining in on Facebook, either on the replay or live, because it's so great to have these discussions with you, and continue to make comments because we always go back and look at those and respond. If you are interested in talking about my Plant Power Revolution and how that can change your life, please feel free to PM me. And happy Friday. And I hope you have an amazing weekend. So we'll see you next week.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.